Welcome to Rainbow Soul Podcast, where our soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and Lacrosse's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at rainbowsoul.show.
Hello, welcome everyone. We're starting a little bit later, but hopefully that's okay with most of you. And it's actually like, I don't even know what to say about that because that is weird. Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was 5:30. I scheduled it at 5:30. Yeah, there's no apparent reason why I did that, except that maybe it was in my best interest because I actually, if it had been at 5, I would have been a minute or two late because I was at the doctor's. So I just didn't get back fast enough. So it all works out in the end, right? So that's what I keep trying to tell myself. So hopefully you are telling yourself that and that it all works out in the end. So that's all that really matters, right? All right. Well, we are going to take a minute to ground and center. Sorry that I'm Hollis.
I'm Bright Hawk.
Welcome. Take this minute to just listen to the music. And just take a little ride with us. Okay. And as you just allow the tension to fall off of you, allow the music to carry it away. Imagine yourself in space. Just empty, beautiful, black space. And it just goes on and on. And you can see that there are some stars. And as you move, you realize that you can see that there are planets moving. And while you come back more to the Earth's perspective, you realize that Mars and Venus look differently from this perspective. You realize that from Earth's perspective, Venus and Mars have changed direction. Well, they haven't actually. From this position, you can see that. And Mercury and Venus. So while Mercury and Venus seem to have changed direction, you recognize from planet Earth's perspective, it's different. And you feel the shift around you. It starts feel like things are trying to get easier. And you are reminded of Mercury's communication, its transportation, and Venus's love, resources. Because love is a resource, right? As we come back down to earth, we can feel comfort in knowing that all things change, all things come to an end. We can come back into ourselves, feel our bottoms on the seat, our feet on the floor. I encourage you to stretch your hands and come back into your body, open your eyes, and become present with us in the here and now.
Everybody's back.
Yeah, we're back. Hold on, right off.
Oh.
Thank goodness for you. Mercury is just playing with me right now. So,
It's the headline of the day. Mercury has gone direct. Well, let's put it this way. It has gone stationary to go direct. And a good way to understand what retrogrades are, because we talk about it appearing to go backwards, is like if you ever, pick an object and gone back and forth in the way you're looking at it, and you've made it look like that object's actually moving when you're the one moving. So that is sort of the illusion of retrograde, where there's this motion that happens, and Mercury retrogrades the most of all the planets, but most of them have a retrograde motion at some point, and we've witnessed a lot of them. So once we get to the end of the week, we have a full moon on Saturday. I'm giving headlines here, a little advance notice. Today's headline is a big one. Venus going direct is a big one. And, everyone is going to feel that. And
I see it. It's pretty much like the beginning of the week, Mercury goes direct. End of the week, Venus goes direct.
Right.
So it's like,
right.
This should be an interesting week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, on
and a
each
full
end
moon
of the
on
week.
top with that tight conjunction still happening in Pisces and Aries. Mostly
all
in
right.
Pisces.
Hey, Chelsea, it's great to see you. We're glad you're here. Welcome.
Hi.
And Alyssa.
Aw, thanks.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Great that you're here. Thanks so much. I appreciate the encouragement.
And Carrie, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And Linda from New Zealand, I'm glad you're here too. It's a good time to be tuning in because it's a good time to stay tapped into the stars, is what I would say.
Yeah, right.
Especially with last week's movement of Neptune, Neptune moving signs. I feel, I was, as I was contemplating what exactly that means on what level, I think there could even be like this level where you feel a little almost like psychically, like a little out of whack a little bit because it just moved into a fire sign, where first it was in Pisces where Neptune is feeling like it's totally comfortable, and all of a sudden you zapped it to a fire sign, Aries with some of that much energy.
Very different vibes, right?
Yeah, it's like
who lives next door is a totally different house,
right.
A totally different vibe. You go from water and mutable to fire and cardinal, which is like all out of the gate kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like that change in itself I could feel this week. I just feel like there's like some life things that are like forcing people in certain ways, and I'm not the only one. There's all kinds of people out there that are making different life choices, or life is changing for them for a variety of reasons. And some people, I noticed that there must have been what Anne Ortley used to predict, gates that would open so that if people were close to passing, they would pass. And so, like, those kinds of things happened, and I appreciated that that insight.
I completely understand, Carrie. We feel that way every week about I don't know how anyone gets through without astrology. I don't know how you can, navigate without looking at what's the weather going to be kind of thing, So
I mean, it happens sometimes, but I usually miss it. Yeah, Carrie,
and anyone with, well, this stuff, the stuff that's moving right now, like I said last week, and every astrologer we listen to says the same thing. March 2025 has been pointed at from all astrologers for years, frankly. Yeah. So, we got through. Now we get through April where, things start to leave retrograde. We start to have more forward moving direction, and that's just ultimately going to feel better. I think it's going to have that we're ready for the tide to change.
Yeah. Bianca, I'm glad you found us this way. I'm not sure what page of difference, because I actually broadcasting to like 8 places at once.
We try to make sure everybody knows. I'm glad you're all here. Thanks so much.
All right. Linda's a Pisces.
Oh, yeah. Boy, Pisces and Aries, man. You guys have just had so much intensity in your house. I'm just going to say.
Yeah. Pisces, you got a lot going on. The North Node, Saturn's leaving there. Neptune just left. So I know you had to feel that, Pisces. Just this week, you probably felt like maybe you had some weird dreams, or, I don't think so, Bianca. She said that it ended on Divine Androgen. I didn't think so, but maybe it did. I don't know. But I imagine that Pisces would definitely feel that Neptune move out this past week. Like, I think they would feel like,
oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely,
a shift. And maybe they feel a shift in drive, though. Maybe it feels good a little bit. I'm not sure, So
let us know.
How does it feel to you? It's probably the first time ever that people would experience Neptune moving out of Pisces into Aries. So you'll never feel that again in your life. All right. This past week, whatever this past week or two.
Neptune's a slow mover. 260 years, 40 years, over 200 years, right?
It would have been really too long ago. Yeah.
Last time was the 1860s. This we know because the last time Neptune was in Aries, 1860s, ring a bell for anyone in the United States about Civil War.
Right.
So I'm sure we're all proud of everyone who showed up at Hands Off.
Oh yeah, at the protest.
So thanks to everybody who.
And isn't that
stood up.
interesting that pretty much happened on the day of, like, when did Neptune? It was a couple days around Neptune.
A few
moving
days
in Aries.
after.
But there you go. There's another shift in consciousness. You know, there's the shift in consciousness happening on the big stage.
Stage,
is that people are having, because Neptune represents consciousness, and it's coming out of the water into a fire. So it's like, of course, people are coming and saying, "We are the people. We are the people. We are the people," and shaking the world that way.
Out of emotion, water, into action, fire. So people are like, okay, enough. We have to let our voices be heard, and
right.
Every act is a brave and courageous thing. So thank you all for that.
No, Chelsea, the dreaming thing, because Neptune represents consciousness, it also represents and rules over the dream world. So a lot of times Neptune's movement will affect your dreams. So you probably, I'm sure, everybody has some Aries Pisces in their chart somewhere. Even if you don't have a major planet there, it's still in your chart.
Yeah.
So, it could just be in your 11th, 12th house.
Yeah.
But strange and vivid dreams, that's the Neptune shift. That's exactly what that is.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, and if you felt more tired, yeah, see, Linda said that, so she's a Pisces, and she said that she had a big change. Someone walked out the door, and that's in the Mystical Connections group. So I understand, Linda. See, it's because you're Pisces, and that Pisces, there's something coming in. This is destiny, though, because the North Node's been in there since January. So whatever's happening to Pisces right now is very fated.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about Pisces and Aries, because that's still where there's just a traffic jam, a party house, whatever you want to call it, we call it a stellium in astrology, but that doesn't matter. That's 3 or more in the same house, in the same sign. And you also want to look opposite, because the sign opposite that is also going to be feeling those things. And then in that case, it's Virgo and Libra, right?
For the nodes?
For the nodes and for, yeah. So the Virgo is where the South Node is, and Pisces is where the North Node is. So all the energy in Pisces is what Hollis was saying is very fated.
Yeah, so I feel like Virgos right now, we're shedding. So, you guys are going to watch me shed in front of you. Okay, so Alyssa said, could our intuition be off also? Yeah, Alyssa, I don't know that it doesn't have to necessarily be off. It could just feel different. It could feel more intense for some people.
Yeah, blessings. That's quite the surf you've got, Alyssa. Yeah.
With all that Aries Pisces stuff you have going on there, you're going to feel all these shifts that are happening right now. This is a very intense time for you. And Samantha says, getting a lot of nudges from angels. That's definitely Neptune there. Yeah.
So Neptune is very spiritual. So when it touches and changes things, it can also activate, visions in that regard. So yeah, big changes from Pisces to Aries. It's just a huge change for Neptune.
All right, let's do this, because so literally the chart is for like right now. Yeah.
I try to
pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And Mercury is direct and conjunct the North Node. So it did actually move. It's not stationed, it's actually moving. It moves pretty fast.
Well, it's out of retrograde, so we would call it station direct. You know,
Okay.
it's that illusion of
Right. Exactly.
so
So
we'll
if it
see if
so if
that
it's not moving along today, it will move along tomorrow.
yeah,
And it might depend on who the other people are you're dealing with, because that's usually what we're waiting for or trying to work with.
right.
So,
So
you know,
anything you have that's at 25, 26, 27, woo, it's like
yeah.
and I have a lot of stuff there, so I get it.
Anything in Pisces and Virgo, if you have some intense placements there, you're going to really be feeling this. And then, you're just going to notice maybe a shift in energy last week and now a different type of shift. It might be more in a shift in communication or how you communicate or how you want to communicate. Anything like that, or actually it could, like, I had to wait like 3 months for this physical therapy appointment. And so it finally, on the day it goes direct, if I finally get it. So this is very Mercury retrograde goes direct. You finally get that thing. That thing comes through. So that's probably what you're going to be experiencing now.
And we have a Leo moon, which I'm a Leo moon, so hey there. The moon is in some interesting aspects this week. At the end of the week, it's in a yod as
Interesting.
well.
I can see there's a lot of positive aspects today.
Yeah, exactly. We've got continuation of that minor grand trine we had all last week. And because those are real slow movers in that whole configuration. So so when the moon is in Leo, it answers to the sun. It's happy to be passing through, it's just left its home in Cancer. And it's in a trine to the sun and Chiron, because the sun and Chiron are hanging out together this week or so, pretty closely. So Chiron, for if you don't remember, is the wounded healer, and so it really represents the healer in the chart and healing. And so right now, the Sun and Chiron are in a close conversation about, what's for the highest good.
I think a lot of us are probably thinking about our wellness and things like that, especially with that South Node over there in Virgo reflecting that as well. Like letting go of any kind of bad health habits or anything like that. Virgo is very health centered, it's very focused on wellness particularly. So if you're finding yourself doing that, that's probably a lot what that is. And I think with the sun in Aries, which is also in a very physical sign, they're both in a very physical sign, and the sun is our vitality. It's what moves us forward.
Right.
And so I think those two are a reflection of each other, and like, I think Rick Levine was saying that, when you find that in multiple places, it tends to be more strong. And I accidentally started a whole new thread for body wellness by accident, just like last week in a group of random friends. So all of a sudden they wanted to talk about body stuff and being able to take care of ourselves and be accountable and stuff like that to get better wellness practices, exercising and things like that. So if that kind of thing is coming on board for you, you're not the only one. It's actually, and it's also kind of, I think spring tends to do that anyway, wouldn't you think?
Sure. The Aries energy is, get going, get moving.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
And so, we're in Aries season, so I think it makes a lot of sense. And Sun conjunct Chiron, I think paying attention to your health makes a lot of sense. Moon square Uranus, I'm going to say, is maybe asking you to think about making a change because the moon is in conjunct or quincunx Venus and Saturn, which basically means exactly the same thing. Venus is about what do you value, Saturn is about what are you doing about it? What's your structure? What's your habits? How are you putting your health and best practices into action? So it's funny how in astrology you will see the same thing underlined frequently.
Yeah, just like slightly different energy, but it's really the same thing.
And there it is again. And there it is again.
So I think there's probably a lot of us feeling that way right now. So that's
the chart for right now. Yay, Mercury! Go!
Yeah, some of us are probably feeling like there might be some resolution either now or around the corner.
Consistent with my Hollis pointing it out, it seems to happen during every Mercury retrograde. I break a glass or two. I don't know why. I don't generally.
Do you do two in Gemini when it's retrograde in Gemini?
I don't know. My God, I don't know. And I'm a Mercury retrograde, so I notice Hollis will have a lot harder time, usually at the beginning and the ending, speaking.
Yeah, talking.
Things come out backwards, literally.
I don't know. Yeah, my words like kind of just slip away. It's a little bit, and it's uncomfortable for me because most of the time I'm pretty good at expressing myself verbally, and then to not be, then it's uncomfortable, right? So some of you might experience that, or you might experience it the other way around. Most of the time you're uncomfortable with language, but while Mercury comes in and out of retrograde, suddenly you're more comfortable with it. So, okay. So this is Tuesday. And I think I was like, well, it's pretty much a similar energy, except there's actually more positive aspects tomorrow.
Well, Tuesday morning, the big thing I would point out is that the void moon. So if you're listening to us for the first time, the void moon is that moment when the moon changes signs about every 2.5 days. And just like we've been talking about the contrast and the difference between Pisces and Aries, there's this moment in between those two signs when the moon crosses over, and it's called the void. And the void is like that in-between time. It's the time when you want to take a break. Don't plan anything that you want to be initiating stuff. It's not outward energy, it's inward energy. Stop and reflect. Do good self-care, take time to do whatever's good for you. So this void in mountain time starts at 4 a.m. to tomorrow morning, and it goes for a little while. This is the longest void moon, I think.
That might be an interesting good day tomorrow.
Yeah, it goes until 20 to 2 and mountain time, so it could be totally different for your time. And when the moon goes into Virgo, it's usually about getting organized and paying attention and what are the details that need to be tended to. And it's in conjunct, again, that quincunx in conjunct, same thing. This aspect that is, it's like fated energy. It's meant to make it. It makes you, how to say it just sort of pushes you down a certain path. You don't have a lot of choice in the matter. That's what we found. That's why we call it fated energy. It's destined. It's like, oh, for some reason I'm having a gut feeling I'm supposed to take care of doing this thing or meeting this person or whatever it is. So when the moon, the moon is in conjunct Pluto. Pluto is the underworld and transformation, and the moon is in Aquarius, which is very transformational. So yeah,
I feel like that's that feeling that that a lot of us are experiencing right now, which is that feeling of like, is this gonna end or what? like it's that anxiety of when the ball's going to drop type of thing. I think there's a lot
When's
of
the other shoe gonna drop?
yeah.
Is this the bottom?
Because of I think
Because of the crazy
Yeah.
that is currently.
I think it makes a lot of people nervous.
Yeah, for sure. Who? Yeah.
So there's a lot of things happening in our government that are making people feel that sort of like that sort of like they're afraid of what might happen and that we might be in danger. Our country might be in danger, and even I myself feel it. And I feel like that's where Pluto, the underground, that's that under feeling, because that's really what's happening. People are uneasy with the changes. So in some ways, what Donald Trump was saying, but there's something he's saying that's right, which is rare, is that people don't like change. That's correct. They don't. But that part. But not much else. But that change that's happening is, I think it makes people uneasy a little bit. I think we're all a little uneasy, and I think that's that feeling. And I think Pluto's been speaking loudly in Aquarius, because I feel like Pluto in Aquarius is very loud, and that's our protests and things like that. And every time I see those protests, I'm like, okay, Pluto in Aquarius, here we go.
Yep. Pluto in Aquarius, and now Neptune in Aries. Here we go.
Right. So it's an interesting world, you all. Just like when
so
you
the
get
morning should be pretty chill, and let us know if you notice when the void ends, which is 2:00. Now, was it last week we had like 2 different days where it was a big void moon?
Yeah, it was like a void all day, but in those days I didn't feel very good. I felt very like I had a wet blanket on.
Yeah, the first one you were definitely like you had a wet blanket on. And I think it was because it was a void moon of Pisces.
Oh.
But this time it's, it'll be going into Virgo. So I think it'll be different. And of course, I have Virgo rising, Hollis is a Virgo sun. So, maybe I'll be curious what we notice about tomorrow morning, and if it feels just nice and chill, or if it feels like I can't get my shit together. I've had 2 cups of coffee and I'm still dragging my ass. We've all been there, right? Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
We have some questions.
Oh, lots of questions. Okay, fun.
So funny. I had all my appointments today. Everything went super well. Great, good. Samantha. Me too. I'm glad that I got the appointment. Just realized my Neptune is in my 6th house too. Oh boy, Alyssa. Yeah, so that's going to affect your day-to-day life and your and probably your health and wellness. Even my cats had their visits. Oh, good. We are dealing with lots and lots of some pretty bad flooding in some areas in Kentucky, huh? So I can't get out and enjoy spring right now. I understand, Bianca.
Wow, yeah, that sounds
I really
hard.
get it. I'm having a hard thing with wind triggering a weird thing and that I'm trying to deal with that's painful, and I can't be outside too much right now. I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah, we got a fair bit of snow this weekend. It's now starting to melt again, but it kind of messed with. You will be indoors now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys know anything about quantum human design? I assume she's talking about human design.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I find it fascinating, super, super interesting, very complimentary, kind of goes at combines some things, including astrology, the
and Kabbalah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just remember him saying it was based on astrology and Kabbalah,
and
its own
there
system.
was one
and it has its own system. Hey, so here comes that. Then we can talk. So we're not 100% sure. And you know what? Here's a little history lesson. Rainbow Soul started out as a spiritual talk show with just me and LaCrosse. And LaCrosse and I would interview a variety of people. So if you go back to, I think 2020 or 2021, we interview. So what we would do is bring on queer spiritual people. And what happened was we just simply ran out of people. Anyway, so if you go and take a look at it, it's an interview about human design, Carrie, but you'll have to go hunting. Okay. So you probably could get it on YouTube. There, it's from like 2020 and it's Rainbow Soul. Or if you look for our podcast on our podcast was on, YouTube, but I think it was also on, it's on like Spotify and Apple and all of that.
And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if you want to understand what your human design chart is, you can always run a free chart. You can just say human design and chart, and it'll say free chart. And you can put it's same thing as astrology, just put your information in and it'll come back and tell you, oh, so both of us are manifesting generators. Surprise, surprise. Not at all. And there's some things in human design that just are really neat. That really help you
just
understand
like astrology.
yourself.
Just like astrology.
I've seen it do wonders for helping parents understand their children. Really just a fun, neat way to go. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing we're always trying to hopefully express about astrology. There's so many different forms and expertise and roads you can travel in astrology. And we try to make it as accessible and demystify it as much as possible so that it doesn't sound like a bunch of gobbledygook, because it's a whole other language. And you know, people don't want to wade through what's that, you know, when we speak squares and transits and what have you, you know, what does that mean? What does that mean to me? Let's get down to what does it mean to me? You know, so we hopefully answer that, you know, and I love your questions when we can help you say, what does this mean for me? I'm a such and such. You know, Hollis does a great job at the end of saying exactly, for especially sun, moon, and rising, how to get there.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's
okay, so I just want
more. Okay.
Got my correct diagnosis last week, Tuesday. I was misdiagnosed type 2 diabetes. I'm actually type 1. Oh my gosh. So hopefully with proper treatment things will get better. Yeah, I understand the mixed emotions. Yeah, but at least you've got some answers, Bianca, and I hope that really gets better with some medication. I'm sure that will probably really help.
Part of the
I don't know,
energy.
Bianca.
What?
She just said something about a comment disappearing. I don't know. So Carrie's like, I'm feeling everything you guys are talking about. All right. Carrie got her chart already. See that?
Awesome.
There you go.
Great.
All right. Yeah. So whoever does the history thing, you can come back and remind us of what that guy's name is. But I know he does human design, and I know he teaches human design. And he was a really nice guy. You'll be able to see that on the show.
Yeah.
And when we go and look at the chart for Wednesday
doesn't change a whole lot.
Okay.
What you now have basically is the moon coming into conjunction and conversation, I guess you could say, with our past, with past relations, past views, past ways of doing things, because you're in Virgo. So moon and south node and conjunct in Virgo are obviously opposite that whole big party, which would be the North Node, Neptune, Mercury and Venus, plus Saturn. You know, it's a party, because they're all within just a few degrees at 27, 26, 25, right. 24.
It's like a party going on over there in Pisces. So anything in Pisces, anything in Virgo, you're feeling it right now, okay? Like, I mean, you're feeling something, and differing degrees depending on what you have in those signs. And I just would say that, you know, that's That's what's been going on though for a while now, and you're going to be feeling it for Pisces for a bit now, okay? And then Aries is going to get their turn. So on Thursday, looks like we have those minor trines are staying though.
Yeah,
they're not going anywhere. They're still there.
They're
They're still hanging around there.
Yeah, exactly. And now you see that the moon is really perfected in its conjunction with South Node. And, throw in this in conjunction stuff that keeps happening. So, or no, actually, that happens the next day. Never mind.
And then there is a void moon.
I was going to say, of course, when the moon is in Virgo, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So, opposites, it's across the circle. Hey, man, how's it going? That, you arrive in someone's house and you want to talk to the host, and they're 180 degrees from you.
Yeah, so communication, I feel like communication things would probably resolve, like doctor's appointments and things like that we've been all noticing, that kind of thing. That kind of thing will start to resolve, but I feel like relationship things, like relationship with other people, not necessarily like just like health organizations or whatever, but like I feel like relationships with people, that's gonna take this week and it will start to unfold this week, but I think it'll probably feel even better next week. I think so, because some people have been struggling in relationship. I know that for sure. So it looks like there's a void moon on Thursday, 7:48 p.m.
Yeah, in the evening. Thursday evening, so, just before 8 p.m. till 1 a.m. the next morning. And for those of you who work late shifts, that's a good one to know about. And, of course, the moon will be moving out of Virgo and into Libra.
Right. Okay.
And Libra is ruled by Venus. Again, it's opposite side of the sky.
Well, hopefully they'll well, not quite opposite.
Yeah, not quite.
But hopefully Venus will go forward when Venus goes forward at the end of the week. I think so. This is Friday, so by Sunday, I feel like it will probably feel better.
You want to look at Saturday tomorrow? We have a full moon, 23 degrees. Libra, moon in Libra, of course, sun in Aries. And again, its conjunction is even tighter than ever with Chiron. Now you have Venus is at 24, Saturn is at 25, Mercury is at 28. And of course, now this is the last day of Venus being retrograde.
I feel like by the end of the weekend, if you're going through some
here's where the yod is.
This is where I feel better.
And we have what we call a yod, or a finger of God. What's that? Well, in this case, it's a triangle that's pointing at the moon. So that means the moon is the one facilitating the conversation. And the base of the triangle is Uranus on one side and Venus and Saturn on the other. So, yeah. And
so I would say that's pulling. So if you look at the foundation of that would be progress and life path, sudden surprises or shifts. And since it's pulling from Saturn and Venus, that would be about what we love and how that feeds us and how we live our lives in relation to that. Like, like, do you do what you love? Do you do things that take care of yourself? And that Libra moon of maybe seeing how others do or don't do those things for themselves. And maybe even trying to work together with others to try to take better care of ourselves or others. It will definitely be in relation to relationships and definitely with emotions because of that Venus, right?
Right, exactly. That combination is quite the combo.
Right. So I feel like it's going to be about that. It's exactly what I just sort of outlined. It could have a little to do with money or something like that, depending on where it's placed in your chart, just because Saturn and Venus can easily have a lot to do with money. But I feel like if you listen to the desire for connection, you'll do better. So if you are struggling with some sort of relationship thing or something comes up in that regards, then just always remember to stay, that you want to stay, hopefully if you do, you want to stay connected. Don't let me tell you want to stay connected to someone that's clearly toxic. Okay. But if you decide that you would like to mostly preserve that relationship, then just come back to connection, because that's what the Libra moon is. That's Libra moon.
Right.
Libra moon is like
Right.
very much about connections and relationships.
Right.
It's very
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
So that's
powerful.
yeah.
That's
So
Saturday,
and
and then Sunday, ta-da! Venus goes direct. Woo!
right. Now we just have to finish this transit, because it's still got to now go. Mercury and Venus
Back
now have to
through.
march back through everything that they went backwards on, and that does have meaning, mostly just because usually it's a resolution though. So
Hopefully,
usually
yeah.
there you'll be like, oh, this is what I was dealing with when Mercury was in retrograde. Now you'll probably find some sort of solution, and it will probably be a pretty good one. You'll find some sort of way to deal with things. You'll find some sort of way to work through things wherever Pisces is in your chart. I'm kind of like doing this because that's for me, Pisces is children. And if you don't know, I'm homeschooling both of my grandchildren virtually. I know you probably think I'm crazy. Sometimes I think I am. But anyway, I'm doing the best I can, and so and it's fine. It's if you know anything about homeschooling, it's just kids don't go to school for 8 hours a day. They go to school for homeschooling is like what, like 2 hours maybe, right? Okay, so like it's like an hour or two, and the one child is 10. So she could do things on her own. So it's like, a couple of hours, right? And so it's not like all day or anything. So, and I think, and I have experience. This isn't my first rodeo.
And they're amazing. I'm just going to say amazing.
And I have a lot of asteroids in the 5th house of children. And so a lot of that Pisces stuff is in my house of children. And my grandchild is, she has a lot of business going on in Pisces and Aries. So
boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
And we can tell by the way she behaves. So boy, if you have kids, you definitely want to know their chart.
Really tough on her. Boy, was it tough on her.
Yeah.
Venus retrograde can be tough on anyone and everyone. It can really, if you have Venus retrograde in your chart, chances are you struggled with some self-worth, then it can really force you to do some work, basically, and hopefully become very resilient. Hollis has Venus retrograde.
Yeah, I do. Woo, boy.
People that we know that are resilient because they've had to overcome a lot, especially Venus retrograde also indicates having a really tough childhood. So,
or some sort of kind of it's actually like an assault on the feminine. So, because if Venus is afflicted in your chart, this is what I read or heard. I think it might have been both. So, if Venus is afflicted in your chart, that means it's retrograde, and maybe it's in a square or opposite something. Okay, or it's in a sign where it's in what we call detriment. Okay,
like Scorpio,
and so that would be like Scorpio. This means that you might struggle with relationships or with being female. And not that you have gender dysphoria. I mean, that could be, but that's not the only way. It could also be that you suffer from being female somehow, being in the female body somehow. You suffer from that.
It's right there in the description, afflicted Venus.
Right.
You know, you can pretty much get there without too much imagination about what that energy can be. So when Venus is retrograde, everyone feels a little, am I good enough? And did people like me? Or
Yep.
I'm not valued. People, I need more respect, you know, or whatever it is.
That they feel like they're not loved as much as they are.
Something gets tripped that it can really change your perspective. And then now at the end of the week with it going direct, your perspective might change again next week as a result, where you're like, oh, wow, I'm looking at that very differently than I did last month. And that's the kind of thing that all of us are subject to in Venus retrograde. It can really...
And sometimes I've sat with that. Like, what does that mean? Like, so what did the universe set me up to be abused, for instance? And I don't know that that's really what I'm saying, because then that wouldn't set up a good relationship with the universe. And I want to manifest great relationships with the universe. So I always say, believe things that are good for you, especially when no one can prove it otherwise. And so
but when you learned it for yourself, it explained a lot of things that made you go,
it did.
Wow. Okay. So...
And I also see it as those people that were perpetrators. The perpetrator of abuse is a free will choice. And that if it didn't happen in that way, as long as women are still oppressed and we're not equal beings and we're not living in a harmonious, peaceful world yet, as long as that keeps happening right now while we're not in that evolved state, then it would get, I would have been afflicted a different way. Okay. So, and maybe it would have been less, who knows? Maybe it would have been less impactful. Maybe. Chelsea, it's afflicted by so is it retrograde? Number 1. Okay. You can know if it's retrograde. It usually has a little RX next to it.
Or it's red.
Or it's red on some software. And Chelsea, I think I did your astrology chart. I don't remember though. So if you look at our recording, your chart is there. And where is it in fall?
Aries and Scorpio.
Oh, right. I know it's in fall in Scorpio. And a lot of times
and it's
people
in fall in Virgo.
Yeah, and sometimes people with Venus in Scorpio really struggle with relationships, just to let you know. And then Venus and Scorpio, and then what was the other one? Venus and Aries. And that makes sense because it's ruled by Mars. And so Venus and Aries, I think sometimes they're not, I think there's just too much, there's so much fire. It's almost as if the water of the feminine doesn't exist in Venus with Aries people. Yeah. And then
with Venus in Pisces, though, this is where Pisces and Venus have a great relationship. She's at her favorite beach, basically, you know.
So it wouldn't be afflicted. It wouldn't be as painful if it's in Pisces, Venus retrograde Pisces, as it would be in, let's say, Aries or Scorpio.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So,
which is why when Venus went retrograde in Aries, where it's already in detriment, everybody was just like...
Right. So then Bianca said, my daughter's Venus is squared Uranus. And my son that crossed Venus square Saturn and his moon. Right. So, you know, Venus usually has to do with relationships, money, love, self-love. And when it's in a square, that's not terrible, because that could just be a challenge of learning how to love yourself or something, which creates some resilience in people. So it's not necessarily terrible, but usually afflicted means there's layers of things.
When I see Venus square Uranus, I think you're going to do relationships differently.
Yep.
That's where I go.
Yeah.
You're not going to
be more progressive.
You're not
anyway.
going to be a traditionalist. You're going to do it
Uh-uh.
differently. You're going to do it however you want to do it. You know,
Right.
your relationship's going to look different. It's not going to be traditional.
Yeah.
That's what I see when I see that.
No, conjunctions are not necessarily afflictions because conjunctions are just a mix of the energy.
It's like a combination. It can be a collaborative, cooperative conversation. It's like, hi, how's it going? Can we talk about this?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, it's an amplification of the energy, and depending on where, you know, like right now we have a big time amplification of the Pisces energy because of all those planets.
Right. So then there's just more Piscean energy in the air, right? And then as more planets move into Aries, we'll feel more of that Aries energy in the air. Okay. And so that's kind of what happens with conjunctions. It's just like, just imagine putting some spice in your stone soup. Okay. Where everybody's thrown a little bit in, but you know, you have a moon and then you have Mars, right? Okay. And so when you conjunct things, that's what we mean, that they're both in the pot. Okay. And Alyssa said, my youngest kiddo's Venus, not in retrograde, is in Scorpio. Would that indicate hardship or trauma in childhood? Not necessarily. No. But she could struggle with relationships sometimes, especially when she gets older. Especially like to have to do with like sex and stuff. So if I was you, I would be very open about talking to her about sex. That will be very important for that child, that she grows up in a sex positive home. Body positivity is what I would tell you. To teach a lot of like stuff about, definitely teach about like good touch, but bad touch, but every child should have that education. And they should also, and I think all children should be brought up in body positive, sex positive homes where sex is not something you speak of in a shameful way. And so I think that will be the most important thing to your child there, Alyssa, in today's expression of Venus. It's not in retrograde. And if it was in retrograde, maybe, but still not. It doesn't always have to be child abuse. It could be other things. It could be like she goes on a date with some jerk and he tries to, go too far with her, and that traumatizes her. It's not about what happens. It's more about the impact it has on you. It makes me think of what Gaber Mate is, a trauma specialist, and he's always talking about trauma. It's not about what happens. It's not about what actually happened out here. It's what the child in you felt and internalized as a result. And that's what we're talking about. And it can look like a lot of different things. Okay, Alyssa, and what I would say is teach your child how to protect herself, get her some confidence building. I would put her in martial arts, and I would teach her body positivity, and I would speak frankly with her about sex. Oh yeah, Bianca, if your daughters is in, both of you, Venus and Scorpio, you need to have good sexual conversations with that child and make sure that they are grown up in a home that's sex positive, where sex is not shameful, because you don't want to traumatize them.
Yeah. Seems like the conversation around it is as important as,
Yeah,
it's just vital.
It's important. We're all human beings. It's part of being human. It's no different than needing water or food. Our household doesn't have any taboo subjects. We refuse to shame.
Good job.
We refuse to shame any of it or try to hide it. We definitely are open about mental health, sex, politics, religion, health, just everything in that sense. So I'll continue on that. Congrats. Good job, Alyssa. See? And you probably knew that at birth. So that's the other thing. Most mothers, even without looking at an astrology chart, oftentimes know everything they need to know about their children. And I think it was... I can't remember where we were listening to on Gaia TV who exactly said it, but they were saying how the DNA from the baby goes into the mother.
Oh yeah.
And so then the DNA is in both. And so that's
Yeah.
why mothers are sort of like
wired
to know what happens to your kid or whatever.
Yeah.
I think you're also wired to know what's good for them.
Yeah.
And as long as you're listening to yourself mostly, especially when it comes to your kids, like, are you making decisions where you go, oh, I probably shouldn't do that for my kid? Then you probably shouldn't. And if you think that your child really needs something in particular, you should probably get that for them. So whatever it is, and if that means a household with no taboo subjects, then that's fabulous, because Alyssa, you knew it. That's what I'm telling you. In your DNA, you knew what your child needed. What exactly would I look for as what planet Venus squared in relation to what sign? How would what sign?
I may have just answered my own question. Go to the next
one. Bianca, I think you did. Yeah, Bianca, I think you did. But I think what I'm saying is that it's not as easy as saying it's exactly this or it's exactly that. It's more like 3 or 4 things are all pointing to the afflicted Venus. Okay. So it's not like one concrete thing I can say. And astrology is never that way, really. And so, but like I can say that if it has enough affliction, it's in retrograde, and it's opposition is actually the hardest. Opposite the sun, and it's in Aries. Then I would be like, something will probably happen to this young person. But we'd also probably see that in the light, she could express that while something might happen to her, she would probably also become a very powerful woman because of the Venus in Aries. She's going to become the hero woman. So while that might happen to her, she's going to flip it later and become like a hero for women. Okay, a hero for women's rights, because that's the thing that you must realize, is that the heroes on our streets, and speaking about heroes, because here we are in Aries season, and that's what Aries is about. It's about heroes, and the heroes that you're seeing in our world and the politics and all of those kinds of people, those heroes are so vital and so important. But most of the time, they're not just fighting because they thought it was the right thing to do. They're fighting because they've had some experience, some adverse experience that has brought them to being a better version of themselves. And so remember, when really hard things are happening, then internalize that and say, okay, this is happening right now, but someday this could have some other meaning for me. I don't know what it is now, but I'm sure this is leading me somewhere, even when it's a really hard thing. And so that's what I'm saying, that sometimes we want to protect our children, but we also must remember that they must go through hard things, and they'll get onto the other side of those hard things, and then they'll become a resilient, amazing hero, and you'll be so damn proud of your child anyway. Okay. And so that's really what's important, is that we just love our children. Chelsea's trying to cook dinner, and she keeps running back to her laptop to check her family's charts. You gotta print them and put them on the fridge with magnets, Chelsea. You should print them out, put them on a magnet, so you could just walk up and look at it.
That's funny.
Yes, Alyssa, it does. I do notice that a person assigned female or male at birth will sort of just process the thing differently. You can see that in twins that are of different genders, like, like one does identify as female and the other is male. They will often express the same thing differently, right? So like a female with Venus in Scorpio, she might end up being very sort of sexual, but in a feminine way. Okay. But in a sort of power female type of way. Okay. And sometimes that could be intimidating. which sometimes could lead her to have some troubles in love, because men don't always like intimidating women. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. And then, but a male with Venus in Scorpio will experience that a little bit differently. They might be seen as really great lovers, very sensitive, but intense and passionate. But sometimes, almost as a result of that, they might sometimes experience relationships that don't work out so well in the romance department. Okay, and so it leads to the same thing in the end, but you can see they got there differently. Okay, now also there are markings in a chart for a person that's non-binary, or ends up identifying as non-binary, but it's not always solid. Like, it could be expressed that way. Okay, Bianca, you should have Gaia TV. Although we might lose you to their great programming. Barbara said, totally off subject. When you read people's charts, can you see if they are going to get really sick or cancer, for example? And if so, do you tell them? Okay. Sometimes I can see the potential. So here's the thing, is that astrology is always a potential. So there's a potential for things to happen, right? So there's a potential for me to have a genetic heart condition. And so I have been diagnosed that way. Okay. And so, yes, that is in my chart. But how it's seen in my chart is I'll probably die suddenly. But when, we don't know. I could be 95 and die suddenly. Okay. We don't know when. And then the other thing about that is that, we could see that it will be my heart and probably not cancer or something to do with my something else. Okay. So it'd probably be my heart. Okay. And so you can see that, but you won't, but we all have to die of something. Okay. And so I might be able to say, you might want, um, to get tests. I'm still going to refer you to the doctor. I'm still going to say, yeah, go get tested. And regardless of whether it's in the chart or not. Where astrology can be helpful in that is sometimes I can warn people and say, like, there was a guy who was on cholesterol medicine, and then he kind of just stopped taking it for a long time because he lost his spouse and he just didn't think about it. And then I was like, I think you need to go back to the doctor and get that cholesterol medicine again. And he's glad that he did. Okay. So, because there was more problems. Okay. And so he wants to be available for his children, but because of the grief and what else happened to him, he kind of fell off. I'm sure you can understand and be empathetic to that. And so what I'm saying in that is that what's important is I would give him that warning. I would say, go back to the doctors, make sure you get on that medication, because there is a choice. Just like a person goes to the doctor and the doctor says, well, if you don't quit smoking, you're going to die of lung cancer. And that's probably going to happen if you don't quit smoking. Okay. So then there's a choice in that moment. That's called free will. And that depends on your choice. I would try to I understand. So Barbara's saying the reason I ask is because I'm having some symptoms, and because I live in a rural area, I have to wait weeks for tests. I totally get it. I live rural, but the doctor I'm going to is not rural. I don't think it matters where you live, just letting you know there, Barbara. It seems like we're all waiting to see doctors for much longer and longer and longer as time goes on. But what I would say is that if you feel that it's urgent, then you should go. Okay. You should go to like an ER or something. Okay. All right. With Venus being in Scorpio, that is. Okay, I'm not sure what that was, but okay. I love the thought of still carrying my son Christopher's DNA, even though he's not with me. Good, Bianca. I'm glad that could be comforting to you.
It is a cool thought. Always with you for sure.
And he has you and him, right? And you knew that, but thinking of it the other way is also important.
The next one down.
Okay. Strong, intimidating female. That's my daughter, Alexis. She's also a Libra sun and rising that is ruled by Venus. Wow. Yeah. So she's probably she'll be very good at style, huh? She knows how to make herself look strong and intimidating as well. So she probably also has her own style and her own sense, because Libra rules style. So every Libra I know is particular about the way they dress.
This,
Yeah,
trying not to,
but that's that's Libra. They're very much into style.
Venus and her rulership in Libra. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so Alyssa said, when doing my late husband's death astrology, looked at mine. You mentioned stroke heart risk on my chart. I started the process and was waiting, and my heart started really showing problems that needed to be seen urgently for. Was able to do that last week and follow up today. Between your reading the chart, the symptoms, and free choice, it really hit the nail on the head.
Wow,
Alyssa.
I want to say I'm proud of you for taking care of yourself and listening.
It is so important. It is so important that you go to the doctor, and I'm glad that you decided to go. And I will say that I will tell you things like that. I will tell you to go to the doctor. Especially if I see that there's something, because I have medical astrology to help me with the death astrology.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because then I can see how, what it was involved when a person passed.
Right.
It helps in the validation.
So let's do the astrology.
Oh yeah.
You're going to do Venus direct, or?
I was trying to think of that.
The full moon, the Saturday chart. Because there's so much.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it Saturday. All right, because we're already in today. I was trying to decide the difference, like today or Saturday.
Yeah, cluster.
All right. Days. All right. Saturday. So Saturday is the full moon, and that's gonna full moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Saturday is the full moon, and so that's a good time. You're gonna really feel that shift on that. So you guys, that's when you're really gonna feel the shift, I think, of Venus. I think you're gonna feel it in the moon first.
Yeah, I can't imagine you don't. I mean, there's just such a preponderance of energy there.
Especially with that grand trine there. Yeah.
Saturday into Sunday, you're going to feel that.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to feel really good this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, with Venus, because Venus is going direct and it rules Libra. I think this full moon is going to be the most powerful of the week, even more powerful than today. And like the last couple of days with Mercury going direct. Oh, that's just me that feels that because I have too much Virgo. Okay. All right. So this is for Pisces.
Aries.
Aries. Sorry, I was looking at the Pisces very full house. Okay. So start again. This is the horoscope for Saturday, April 12th. And this is for Pisces.
Aries.
Oh my gosh. This is for Aries. Moon. Aries, sun, moon, and rising. So this will be for Aries, sun, moon, and rising. This will be for two things. Venus going direct and the full moon. So the full moon will sort of kick it off.
Your screen if you want to share your screen.
Okay. And so the full moon will sort of kick it off. And the full moon will kick it off, which should happen on Saturday. So just be aware, Saturday into Sunday this is where in your life it will affect you. And for Aries, it's really going to affect you in relationships, okay? Because Venus It's going to really change the way you see or feel relationships and how that comes through for you. Okay. Especially relationships, it doesn't have to be like love or romantic relationships. It could even be like communities that you're part of, or neighbors, or any kind of organizations or anything like that that you're um been sort of connecting with. You're probably going to feel that, Aries. You're probably going to feel that energy. So that's Aries. That's going to be really about relationships with others, particularly any that have to do with communities or like your neighbors or anything like that. Okay. It could also be your siblings. So, or cousins, people like that. Okay. Siblings, cousins, friends, maybe like close friends. And they're or people in your neighborhood. All right. And that's for Aries. Now this is for Taurus. Taurus, this is for Saturday, Taurus. And let's see. So Taurus, this is really, you're really going to feel this around work and day-to-day life. I don't know what's shifting there for you, but I know there's something shifting there for you and you're not even sure. Maybe it's just you. Maybe you're just feeling kind of with all this Neptune in your 12th house and everything. You're probably feeling a little like, I don't know where I want to go or what I'm doing. And maybe there's just so much going on that it's hard for you to keep track right now. And so you're going to be experiencing things that are more like in your dream world or your vision forward and in relation to your day-to-day life. Maybe you'll even be a little extra dreamy on Saturday. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if you were extra dreamy on Saturday. So if you're working on like some art or something, that's probably be a really good activity for Taurus sun, moon, and rising. Like do any kind of like art or creative work of any kind, something like that this weekend. All right. So then this is for Gemini. So Gemini, this is really going to have a lot to do with your creative energy, but it's probably going to have more to do with people you know, or people that you work with, or people that you're influenced by. So these kinds of people are really going to influence you this weekend. You're really going to feel it in your creative side and maybe even in your day-to-day life. But as this shift happens, you might find resolution to something that's been bugging you, or something that's needed to change in relation to other people you know, especially in relation to creative outlets or romantic outlets, or maybe children. Maybe children. So that's pretty much the area that it's going to really affect for you. So just pay attention, especially to those relationships that you want to stay connected with. Just try to stay connected with them. Okay, just try to speak your intention, because that's really your intention. As Venus goes forward, the resolution will be found. So just know that the resolution is right in front of you. And this is for Cancer. This is for Cancer, sun, moon, and rising. Cancer, I don't know what's going on at work, but whew, right? Okay. And maybe you don't even know what's going on at work. Okay. So like Cancer, I can understand with Mars entering your sign, or exiting your sign rather. It's probably felt like you've probably been through something really major, Cancer, or you're going through something. Maybe you're finishing the transition now. But whatever's happening for you, especially at work, it's going to be, that's where the challenge is going to be. That's where the relationship is going to shift. You might come to a realization or something. You just might come to an awareness of something, or it will actually reveal itself when Venus gets up there by Neptune. So that would be more in May. But as you experience this relationship with someone you work with, It could also have something to do with money in your work, or how you're making money, especially whatever you put out in the world. Okay, so that's for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And now for Leo. So Leo, this has a lot to do with waking up. Oh, poor Leo. They are just I always feel bad for them because right now Mars is like sitting on that ascendant. So if they have something in Mars, you're about to feel some real action happen. So some things are about to take off for you, Leo. You've been experiencing either something to do with the law, or something to do with higher learning, or with spiritual awakenings, having an awakening, or even learning about spirituality. Maybe you've been learning more and more about spirituality recently, especially with all that action in Pisces up in your ninth house. So Leo, you're really navigating some energy right now, some real shifts in your lifestyle, in your life, and the way you see things. So just know that any spiritual things or accomplishments that you finish right now, or any action that takes forward, I think at this point, Leo is probably getting their rewards. They've been through a lot with this Mars retrograde in the last few months, since last fall. And now they're going to, as Mars moves into Leo, the action is going to start happening. Mercury has gone direct. Maybe communication has gotten better. Maybe you finally got that message through. And as Venus goes direct, it's really going to bring through some higher learning, some belief systems, some better relationships, maybe some money. But it will come in the form of educational money, or could be charity. I think is also the ninth house has to do with. And okay, so now that's for Leo, Sun, and Moon. And now this is for
Rising.
Sun, Moon, and Rising. And this is for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Virgo, it's going to be in our 8th house. So that's really going to be about shadow. That's going to be about other people's money. That's going to be about all the things that we think about as taboo. Okay. So that's death, that's sex. So all of those sort of taboo subjects, including like the occult, astrology, witchcraft, all of those things are taboo, right? And so anything that's in the 8th, so we have right now Virgo, that Venus forward will be probably in your 8th house. And it will have something to do maybe with money, or other people's money, or even relationships and money, and also relationships and anything to do with the occult or spirituality, or taboo topics, including death. And it probably may also involve community for you. Okay. So it's a energy of resolving things and trying to get back to what would feel better for you and others. That's really what the intention will be. And because I know there's probably been some discomfort going on, some harder things, some challenging things that you've had to push through. But as Venus goes direct, the resolution is going to show up. Okay, Virgo. So you're going to feel this. That has to do with relationships, especially money, other people's money, sexual things, death, any of those kinds of topics as Venus goes direct. And Libra, this is also for you. This is Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This is for Saturday. And Libra, the moon is in your sign, and it has a yod, right? So it makes me feel like Libra, whatever happens this Saturday, faded. Okay, it was meant to happen. And so just try to go with it to the best of your ability. And I totally get it. I have a Libra moon, so I'm going, oh boy. But I think it'll be good. I think whatever it is will lead you, will push you on your path. So just remember that. I find that comforting to know, okay, something might happen this weekend, and when it does, I should just try to accept it to the best of my ability, and hopefully it'll be a good thing. Hopefully it'll be a good thing, okay? So we can see it as a potentially good thing, coming to terms for you, Libra. And it will definitely be in relation to your identity as well as your day-to-day life, okay? So maybe you find a resolution for money. Maybe money starts to come in a little bit better. Maybe maybe other things, your day-to-day life is better, or your work, okay? So it could also be your health, okay? So some things you could suddenly make sense of some things, which I think would be really helpful, okay? So and then oops, I closed the wrong thing. And so that's for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So it's going to have something to do with your health or your day-to-day life or your work in the world, okay, and your identity, those two things. All right. So this is now for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This is very much, oh my gosh, I'm laughing because I'm a Scorpio rising right now. Okay. It's going to have to do with children, okay? Or creative outlets, or anything that you create, anything that you make, okay? And it also may have to do with romantic relationships, okay, Scorpio? Suddenly relationships are going to change. Suddenly things are going to shift. Mercury's going to go direct. Communication's going to happen better. Venus is going to go direct. And that's going to improve the relationships this weekend, okay? So things are going to feel better. They're going to feel less stressed. They're going to feel more like you found your flow, at least for a little bit. We'll get a little regard. When Venus gets into Aries, it can feel a little bumpy, but some people are able to like kind of grab that and ride it like a good horse. So don't worry about it too much, Scorpio. It's going to be okay the way you are right now with Venus and Pisces. Once it goes direct, the solution will come, and that will be very important in your romantic relationships or children or anything that you create and put out, okay? And so that would be like art or anything that you create. And now for Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This would be, this has everything to do with your home, Sagittarius. This has everything to do with what's happening at home, your family of origin. Relationships could mend, or you could at least mend them a little bit or find some solution. And with Ceres traveling with that, it makes me think of mother, because of course the fourth house rules your parents. But with Ceres in there, it makes me really think about mother. So Sagittarius, you might feel something in relation to your mother. And since it is in a grand trine with Juno, it makes me think, and Mars, it makes me feel like right away, it starts to make me feel like, oh, this is actually quite important time for you, Sagittarius. This actually will be some sort of healing, okay? Because especially if you're if you're working at trying to heal your soul, if you're working at trying to heal your emotions or be aware of your emotions, this is the time, because you have all of that healing energy, Pisces, and the higher, Pisces can sometimes be victim and things like that. And that's the low vibration of Pisces. But the high vibration of Pisces is very much like healing and psychic energy and spirituality and those kinds of things. So I invite you to engage in any of that, because Venus is conjunct Ceres there. That just means that the energy is mixed, right? Okay. And so when Venus goes direct, it will be moving then in the same direction as Ceres. And I feel like that could bring some healing around mother. And I know some other people, I can't remember if they have Sagittarius placements, but some other people that are also dealing with mom things. And so I can see you taking action in that regards. Okay, Sagittarius, especially since it's going to be in your family of origin. The moon will be up in the 11th house around people that influence you. So there might just be something from the outside that comes in and influences that healing energy within you for your mom. Okay, so be open to being around others or being with others. It would be a good time for that, Sagittarius. And for Capricorn, this is for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Now, for you, most of this Venus energy is going to be in your house of community, people around you, your neighbors, the people that live next door, right? Your friends, even your cousins would fall here. And so this is for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So when the Venus goes direct for you, you know, you might finally feel less uncomfortable. You might feel more positive about something. You might feel a sense of relief or a sense of knowing things about your community and where you live. And where, you know, the people that you spend most of your time with, those will also be very important. And siblings, that will also be important. So those are the kinds of people that I'm talking about. And those, I think you're going to feel a sense of relief. And it will have something to do with your work in the world. What are you doing in the world, especially since Saturn is involved in this picture too? Capricorn, that's your ruling planet. And so what's going on at work that's leading you to community or different communities, or what kind of communities, or whatever it is you offer the world, whatever it is you put out in the world. Okay, Capricorn? So this is really about the people around you or the community that you live in. It's really going to help you see it, love it, be it, or come to some sort of resolution that will feel better for you. And so now this is Aquarius. Aquarius, this is going to have a lot to do with your money. This is going to have a whole tons to do with money. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a total money thing. And, you know, where money finds its way to you, or you figure out a different way to manage your books, or whatever it is that you do to make it better. I feel like money solutions will happen for you here, Aquarius. You will be figuring out maybe a new way to make money. That could even also happen, or money could come in for you. Okay? So Aquarius, it's very much going to be about your resources and even some higher learning. Maybe you find maybe it's even something like you get money or funding to go to school or something like that. Okay? Those kinds of things will also be in play there with the moon up in the 9th house there. And it could have something to do with relationships, especially if you get a scholarship or something. Okay. And so that would be for Aquarius. And now we're going to bring ourselves to Pisces. So Pisces, first I'm just going to say, oh my gosh, you have so much going on in your sign right now. It can probably feel like you are the pot, right? Like you're kind of like, what is going on? Okay. So people with strong Pisces placements probably are feeling very shifted and sort of rocked around because there's so much going on in Pisces right now. And with an amplification of their Piscean energy, they're going to be more sensitive. They, you know, might be experiencing a variety of emotions and stuff depending on if it's your sun. It's probably going to be how you present yourself to the world, and who are you, and what's your identity, and what's your vitality, all of that, right? But if it's your rising, it's going to be more like who you really are underneath, and who you are at home, and what kind of friend are you, and you know, what kind of integrity and things like that do you have. And if it's your moon, it's going to be very much about your emotions and your intuition and your psychic things. Okay. So that's really Pisces. That's where you're going to be feeling a lot of energy. And so there could be a lot to do with your identity and who you are and how that expresses for you. in particular, even with relationships in particular, like you could actually be like, well, I'm not sure this relationship serves my identity anymore. I'm not sure this is who I still am. And that's totally valid. Okay. So Pisces, if you feel like you're going through like just becoming a new person or something, you are. So just, it's okay. It's all right. Just allow it. All right. All right. I think that's everybody. I had to double check in my head.
That's amazing.
All right.
Really cool.
So when doing my oh, okay. We already read that, right? Yeah. Nah. Alyssa got the chills. I think when I was reading her message about her husband, I was wondering if you could read anything on me for my sister that passed. Dawn, we're not doing mediumship, we're doing astrology. If you want a death chart reading, you'll have to bring in the birthday of both you and your
Time
sister.
and location.
Yep, and the time and location. Hopefully, if you don't have the time, I can do it, but it's better with the time. It's more accurate with the time. Cancer moon work state just left our nursing home for survey. Oh, it's so anxiety driving, isn't it? But I could definitely use some relief with money and strained work relationships too. Well, now that they're gone, Bianca, now that that's over until next year,
we were just in a nursing home doing our Let's Dance program, and we were pretty sure they were getting ready for inspection.
I was like, me.
There's a lot more staff here today.
I was like, they'll probably be inspected any day now, because you know how they double staff up. And you guys, if you ever worked in a nursing home, you know the bullshit they pull there, man. They do some kooky stuff, and and when you've worked in one long enough, and a couple of you get inspected every year. The state comes and inspects the nursing home, and everybody gets really nervous. It's going to happen sometime that week or whatever.
Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you have the same sun and rising as my husband. Okay. Oh. Sagittarius is some bring on the healing.
Yeah, I hear ya.
Yeah.
I know. Aren't they amazing? I agree. Totally. So I'm just going to say, because we probably haven't said it, and we should probably put the banner up for the 50% off, that if you want to schedule a reading with Hollis, what a great gift to give yourself. You can do that at divineandrogen.com. If you're interested in learning more about me, brighthawkproductions.com. And of course, we created astrology class, and Hollis also created an easy one, kind of a 1, 2, 3. What's your sun, moon, and rising? How to do it really easily. So there's a code right there. It's very little money we're asking for that. We're really intending just to help make astrology more accessible and easy for you, so that these podcasts are even more understandable and relevant for you. Understand how to make it relevant for you.
And for those people that are just listening on the podcast, you can just go to divineandrogen.com/shop-2. And that's where Divine Androgen is DivineAndrogyne.com/shop-2. It is, I think it's in the description. At least Divine Androgen is. And you can always click on digital shop. And you can use the code LIVE50 and you'll get half off. So I think it'll be a whole $5.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. So, all right.
So 3 tarot cards before we wrap up.
So Pisces, what I said, Alyssa, you can rewind it when we're done. Number 1. Okay. And then number 2, I think it was something about, personal identity and relationships.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull 3 cards from the Love is Love deck. This is a LGBTQ deck. Each card is done by a different LGBTQ artist. And the first card is in reference to our past, our history. And this is the Knight of Pentacles. This is about having the resources. This is about being the one that is the provider. This is a little bit more of a comfort provider, of a nurturing provider, because it is represented by the seahorse. So that would be like a nurturing provider. That would be that kind of energy, okay? So that's the Knight of Pentacles. It's represented by trans man, which it totally makes sense if you know anything about transgender people. And so being a trans man is very sort of nurturing, but also sort of resourceful. So having resources. And that's really, because if you think about the seahorse, how they take care of their babies is important. So this is in the past. This is maybe something that's already come up, or something that's already happened for you, or some way that you've already expressed or someone else has expressed in your life. And now this is the here and now, which makes me go, oh my gosh, this is like the Lovers card, which is a great card, but it's also like a protest if you take a look here. And I always
very pertinent, very relevant.
This makes me think of like the gay marriage movement when we were doing that. I've been reflecting a lot of all the activist type of situations I've been part of, and this is this makes me think of that, and how they used to say that for gay couples, loving each other was a revolutionary sort of act, right? Okay. And I think that's happening again now. And that's exactly what this card is about, is that loving right now is a revolutionary act. And the more that we think we're divided, the more we will be. But the more we come together on what's important, and how we're all just human beings and we love one another, that's really where the power is right now. And that's exactly what this is a reminder of, because you can see it kind of looks like a protest. It kind of looks like people coming together in a group. And that's exactly what the Lovers card is about. It is about loving in a way that sort of spreads around the world. So remember that loving is a revolutionary act. Loving anyone is a revolutionary act. And coming in the future, we're going to feel supported. This is the Three of Pentacles. We're going to feel lifted up. People are going to take care of us. We're going to be able to take care of them. We'll be able to help each other out. So don't be surprised if people step into your life that are supportive. Allow them in. When people are supportive, you can let them help you, and that's a really important thing to do. And I feel like that's what this is about. In the future, if you're in need, allow people to help you, okay? And if you're available, help others, okay? And that's pretty much what this card is about for the future.
A beautiful message.
Thank you. Okay.
Wow. I love that. I love how that reflects this last week just so clearly. That's beautiful. Well, thanks so much. We've really appreciated the conversation and the questions and the interaction, and thumbs up and shares and likes help a whole bunch. Hopefully you're subscribed to our YouTube channels and our Facebook pages so that you know when we go live, just in case it's a half hour later or earlier than we typically do. I'm
probably going to keep it at 5:30 though.
I think you're going to keep it at 5:30 now?
I think so. Okay. Like, what do you guys think? Why don't you vote and just post on here, just comment 5 or 5:30, whatever one you think would be better. That's what time it is, Mountain Time. Do you think it's better to do it on the hour? So that could be 7 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. 7 or 7:30.
Well, thank you, Bianca. We're so glad you guys listen and like it. And we wish you all a great week. And thanks for listening to Rainbow Soulstrology, where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars.
Bye-bye.
Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoy this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are a perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.